in a neighborhood where perfection was law and silence the price of peace. One act of love would spark a quiet revolution. Oak Ridge Estates looked flawless from the outside, but beneath the trimmed hedges and matching mailboxes, something was about to break. This is the story of a son, a mother, and the ramp that defied more than just rules. It challenged power and awakened a community. In Oak Ridge Estates, the lawns were always manicured, the mailboxes matched, and every trash can was returned from the curb by noon. On the surface, it was the kind of place where nothing unexpected ever happened. But behind the perfect facades, the residents lived under the tight grip of the HOA, and more specifically, under the rule of its president, Karen Whitmore. Karen believed in order, in rules, in things looking just the way the handbook dictated. Her voice was sharp and polished, like her white blonde bob, and her eyes missed nothing. To Karen, deviations from the HOA code were not minor offenses. They were attacks on the very fabric of the neighborhood. Jake Miller didn't think of himself as a rebel. He was a carpenter by trade, quiet by nature, and deeply devoted to his aging mother, Mary. She had raised him and his younger brother, Tom, alone after their father died, working 2 jobs to make ends meet. A recent stroke had left her mobility impaired, and Jake had spent a weekend building a sturdy, handcrafted wheelchair ramp at the front of their home. It wasn't flashy, just functional, necessary. But to Karen, it was an eyesore. 3 days after the ramp went up, Jake found a bright orange violation notice taped to his door. The message was clear. The ramp had to be removed within 10 days. No appeal, no exceptions. Jake tried to be reasonable. He showed her the doctor's note. He referenced the Americans with Disabilities Act. Karen smiled politely and dismissed it. "This is private property governed by HOA guidelines," she said, tapping her clipboard. "We make the rules. If your mother needs access, you're welcome to install a temporary ramp that doesn't alter the facade. Something you can remove each evening." Jake stared at her. "You want me to carry my mother down the steps every day just to keep your view tidy? It's about consistency," she said, her voice void of empathy. "If I let you break the rules, others will want the same." "Then what?" He closed the door on her mid-sentence. Mary tried to hide how much it hurt her. "We'll figure it out," she said, brushing his arm. "Don't start trouble." But the trouble had already begun. Over the next few days, Jake noticed the stares, the whispers. Karen had sent out a neighborhood-wide notice about unauthorized modifications and community values. The ramp had become a symbol, and not in a good way. Tom, ever the hothead, was ready to take the whole HOA to court. Jake, calmer and more methodical, began documenting everything. He consulted a lawyer friend, looked up state housing codes. He even found previous cases where HOAs had lost big for violating disability rights. Still, the pressure mounted. Karen wasn't just threatening fines now. She talked of liens, foreclosure. She stopped just short of calling Mary a burden. The final confrontation came on a Sunday morning. Karen marched up the driveway, flanked by 2 board members. Jake was on the porch, sipping coffee. Tom stood nearby, arms crossed. "You've ignored repeated warnings," Karen said, voice loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "This is your final notice. If the ramp isn't removed by tomorrow, we will take legal action." "Then take it," Jake said. "You'll lose." Karen's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that." She took a step toward the ramp as if to inspect it, or maybe to declare it in violation one more time. But before she could open her mouth, something unexpected happened. Mary came to the door. It took effort for her to stand there, gripping her walker, her hands trembling. But her voice was steady. "This ramp is not for decoration. It's my lifeline," she said. "You want to fight me over it, Karen? Be my guest. But you're not just fighting a ramp. You're fighting the law. And you're fighting a son who would do anything to protect his mother. There was a silence so thick it held the air in place. Karen opened her mouth, but no words came out. And then it got worse for her. Jake's lawyer friend, who had been watching from his car across the street, stepped forward, holding a folder. "I suggest you read this before you proceed," he said calmly. "It's a formal notice. You've violated federal disability law and state housing codes. You've opened the HOA to a massive lawsuit." Karen paled. Her board members shifted uncomfortably. The neighbors, once silent, were now gathered in small clusters on their lawns, watching closely. Karen's power, once unquestioned, crumbled in real time. She turned on her heel and walked away, her clipboard forgotten on the lawn. That would have been enough. But what followed was something Jake never expected. The neighbors began approaching, one by one, apologizing, sharing stories of their own frustrations. The woman across the street revealed how she'd been fined for painting her door the wrong shade of blue. A young couple admitted they'd been told not to plant a vegetable garden. An elderly man said he'd been threatened with fines for leaving his recycling bin out an hour too long. Something broke that day, but not in a destructive way. It was the beginning of something better. Karen resigned quietly a few days later. The HOA board, suddenly aware of their vulnerability, scrambled to revise outdated policies. Jake, with his lawyer's help, proposed new community guidelines that prioritized accessibility and fairness. But the most surprising part, Mary became a symbol of change. Neighbors dropped by to check in on her. The ramp was no longer just a ramp. It was a monument to resilience, compassion, and the power of standing up. Jake never set out to be a leader. He just wanted his mother to live with dignity. But sometimes, doing the right thing, even quietly, is louder than all the shouting in the world. And in a neighborhood once ruled by silence and fear, people finally found their voices.